Hey everyone, it's Jen Zoe Hall here, and it has been a beat since I've done a live. A lot have been I've been living some life and having some live of my own going on, but I'm really excited to be back and doing some more lives and talking about some really important topics as it relates to personal development through horses. And I had some personal development this morning when I looked up as I was walking back to feed my horses and I saw all four of them galloping down a major highway. Whoops. Yeah. So I'm on a highway. I think the speed limit's like 55 or 65 or something. It's a main highway. I can actually hear the traffic going by and all that. And I was like, what do you do? When the shit hits the fan, what do you do? And if you're here, like just let me know. Say, hey, I'm here. Just drop me a little thing that says hi. I'd love to see you. And ask yourself, like, when the shit hits the fan, how do you respond? I was just working with a client earlier this morning, and it's like the main thing is to be able to respond rather than react. Would it have been absolutely appropriate for me to have reacted and panicked a little, knowing that I had all of my things that matter most to me on the planet, like running down a highway? Like there was like 18 wheelers and people pulling over. Now, luckily, I'm just outside horse country, and I'm surrounded by horse farms. So half the people had like lead ropes and buckets, and like one lady was in a horse trailer, pulling a horse trailer and pulled up on the side of the road. So it's really interesting to look at it from the perspective of like, oh my God, well, first thing I would have done is panic, right? Well, what is that? What good does that do you? Right. And so when it comes to certain things, especially with my horses, I just don't anymore. Like the word panic does not show up for me when it comes to horses. However, I have had some panic come up for me in other areas. And if you come in and check out, I have a self-love masterclass that I offer for people, kind of a low ticket entry into the world of Xenogen and how to understand who you are through the eyes of a horse. And one of the things I realize is that there are those chicken little types that love to panic. If you're here, would love to hear from you. Like, let me know. I see there's a few people on, would love to hear from you. What does it look like when you are in, have are in kind of a hairy, scary situation? And there's a really great movie out there called Bridge of Spies with Tom Hanks, and he is an attorney. He's a civilian attorney in the U.S., and it was set during the Cold War. And he's defending a KGB, an alleged KGB spy. And the guy's sitting there, the KGB spy sitting there, and they're getting ready to go into the courtroom to determine like this guy's life, kind of like what happened this morning. Like my horse's lives were like getting ready to be determined one way or another, right? And the KGB spy is just sitting there calmly, and Tom Hanks' character turns to him and says, "You're about to be on trial for your life or worse. Aren't you worried?" And the gentleman just looks up to him in his little hat and he goes, "Would it help?" So would it help? And that's a key piece. A lot of us are trained to get into this fight flight mode. We're trained to be put into a space. If you're here, I'd love to know that you're here. Drop me a comment and say hello. Or if you'd like to know more about what this is all about, I'd like to hear from you as well. But it's really important to understand what are the things that trigger you and how do you show up. Everybody has their thing, whether it be like that person at work that drives you crazy, your horse is running out into the street. Like, I don't know that happens to too many people around here, but it does happen. In fact, ironically, when I went out there, everybody's like, "Oh, when my horses got out," it happens. It happens. Life happens. And how you choose to show up based on whatever is going on in your life is up to you. You have a choice. And most of us have this addiction to our own problems. We talk about it a lot at Zenergen, where we're like, how are you showing up and why? What is your personality type? Are you like me, like a Bella? My little horse Bella, she was out there running. She was panicking. She was the one that was running up and down the highway, and there are 18 wheelers on the side of the road. And then there's, this going on. And it was like, what the heck is happening? right? And so she was running around, I call it Chicken Little syndrome. The sky is falling, the sky is falling, And what I want you to consider is, where do your triggers show up that cause you to panic or cause you to go into fight, flight, the sky is falling, freeze, fawn mentality, right? And that's where I look at it every day. And like I said, I've had horses for a long time now, and it is, and we say detach, right? Detaching from the outcome. Like that guy who was going on trial for his life. He was giddy. He was like, I'm going to do the very best I can, but I'm going to stay stoic in this space. And that's kind of an interesting thing to think about too. I recently read The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. Great book. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you. But he brings up a lot of things around stoicism and what it looks like to be stoic. And it can be very easy to get confused with that you don't care, or you're being complicit or complacent, or one of those words that says you don't care because you're not worried, right? What do you mean you aren't, my horses were in the middle of the road. You weren't worried? Well, would it help, right? Would it help move the needle? Would it help the actual situation? And that's the key piece you got to understand, is like, is this going to help the situation, help with a productive solution to the situation? And I don't want somebody to worry about me. I want the concern, understanding and having concern about how I'm feeling and being, compassionate. But those are two very different things, right? And when you look at who you are and how you show up, ask yourself, am I that worry wart? Do I get concerned about things that are outside of my control? And that's one of the things I talk about in the Zen Club too. It's like, we go in here and we go, is this in my control or under my influence or outside my control? And a lot of the times we get worried about stuff that we have no control over, nor is it any of our business. We were not designed to have the weight of the world broadcasted to us 24/7 on television channels. Like our nervous system was just not wired to be able to handle that level of trauma. I don't know about you, but my feed on my social media feed sometimes has some stuff in there that I'm like, oh, nope, not going to look at that. Right. Because I know it's out there. We all know that there are people out there doing not so awesome things. And we know that there are things happening, like horses running into a major highway, right? Like those things already are happening. And now don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying be uninformed, to go put your head in the sand and like not be aware of the things that are going on around you. But when you start to think about the things that trigger you, that upset you, that put you into a panic state, ask yourself, like, what's my personality type like? That's number one. Like, and like in certain areas, I am that stoic. I'm like, and I know exactly what to do. Get out of the way, I'll handle it. And then there's other areas of my life where I don't necessarily have that muscle that is that strong. So ask yourself, where can you show up and be like baseline, unflappable or unf-withable, right? And where are you showing up in a way that is actually from a triggered place? What does trigger you? What are the things that cause you to panic or get worried? Right. And a lot of them, is something that's completely out of your control. And I want you to think about that next time you're in a space where you're like, is it in my control? Is it under my influence? Is there something I can do? I got to quit doing that. But that's in my control, right? But what are the things that you can control? And what are you focusing on that you can control? With my guys, right? So I'm just letting people know that this is not a too terrible of a place to be when you know how to just come from that centered strength and go, this is not going to mess with me. I'm not going to take it personally, and sit with it. If you feel like you need to say something, then say something like as soon as possible. If you have to, what is the best way to deliver bad news? As fast as humanly possible, right? As quickly as possible. So that's what that's horses out in the street, fast as possible. But it doesn't mean you have to go into a panic. right? I didn't run. I would have, if I would started running, I'd have passed out. Do you know how hot it is right now? I think they said 115-degree heat index, and which was kind of worked in my favor too, because my horses weren't running around too much. But to go, and I just given them a few cookies. So I gave them a few cookies and I was going to go feed them. And I look up and they're like running everywhere. And I was like, oh, how interesting, right? Instead of, oh my God, right? And you go, you wonder, what is it about these situations? It all comes from what you're focusing on, what you can control, what you can influence, and what you can't control. I cannot control once they're out on the highway. I cannot control that they're going to run up and down the road. I can't control the 18-wheeler that I hope will slow down so he doesn't hit my horse, right? I can't control those things. I can only control and be as centered and confident in handling the situation as expediently as possible. Now, that was sort of an emergency type situation, right? But everything's an emergency these days. Like they try and grab you with that clickbait with a really good thumbnail. What do we say? Hook story offer. That's the way to do digital marketing. Grab them with something that grabs their attention. Well, Panic at the Disco, right? The horse is running out on the highway, right? But what the truth is that the goal is to not have you be worried and in a panic state all the time. You can't live there. You cannot live in a panic state. And a lot of us are. A lot of us are living in baseline Panic at the Disco all the time, worried about what someone's going to think of them, worried about what dry cleaner they have. Like I can't remember the last time I had something dry cleaned, but or what am I going to have for dinner? Like most people's biggest concern is like, what's for dinner? Chicken or beef or Mexican or Italian, right? Like we have such baseline first world problems. The horse is running out into a highway. Oh my God, But how do you put yourself in a place where you have that level of stoicism? Where you really become less F-withable or mess-withable, if you want to keep it PG, and really put yourself in a centered space all the time. And honestly, you guys, this is going to sound cliche, but it comes from having a space of gratitude. Like for instance, I mean, this is going to sound so basic. I had 2 legs to walk my ass up to get those horses back in. I knew what to do. I was grateful at so many different levels. I was grateful the 18-wheeler did slow down and let my horses be, stay safe. I was grateful for the fact that there was like 6 or 7 cars out there, half of them had halters and lead ropes and knew what to do, so I was grateful for that. Instead of, oh my God, my horses ran out into the highway. Yes, that happened. But if that's what I give my energy to, and that's the way I tell the story, guess what I'm going to get more of? Guess what I'm going to attract more of into my life, into my world? Instead of going, it was a thing. Next, right? What's next? And that's really important, is to know what's next. And how the best way to know what's next is to know who you are. Who are you as an individual? And what is your personality type? Are you an extrovert like me? And I'm not like you guys. I spend a lot of time by myself. I spend a lot of time on my computer. I spend a lot of time just with me, myself, and I spend a lot of time like in solitude. And as an extrovert, that's not me. That's not a trauma response or not being able to ask for help. I'm over that. Trust me. I'm getting ready to do a birthday fundraiser for the Synergen Foundation. So trust me, I'm okay asking for help. But I'm also okay being told no from the people that I do ask for help from, and detaching, right? So being able to be in a place of solitude and come from centered strength all the time, right? So drop me a comment. I'd love for you to hear more from you about what you feel is okay to panic about. What is it okay to panic about? And because panic, trust me, it comes up enough. I just went and I did this huge road trip where it's called Road to the Rescue. And I went and I traveled around the country and I went and saw some things I can't unsee and went and spent some time with rescues, all the way from Florida to Wisconsin. And I really recognized that there's a lot of opportunity for panic to creep in. And A panic attack is the opposite, is basically an attack, an overwhelming attack of fear. So if you're thinking about if you're panicking or having anxiety or having a worry, like how do you self-regulate? Do you self-soothe through social media or self-medicating or alcohol or whatever? Or have you learned how to self-regulate? When I went on this road trip, I really had a hard time. I've driven, God, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of miles in my life. But I was feeling like so many different levels of fear from so many different places, whether it be like the really some of the horrible things I saw, or found out about what was happening. The problem with horse rescue is way bigger than I ever imagined, and I knew it was big, right? But it's bigger than I ever imagined. And as an empathic type person that absorbs people's energies, I don't take getting yelled at very well. I don't take getting chastised very well. I'm good at feedback. I'm good if you're going to give me feedback and healthy criticism and supportive, constructive support. But dude, when all that was like coming at me all the time, and it was too much for my nervous system to be able to support. So yeah, there was some panic happening. But a horse is running out on the highway, like, what are you going to do? So when you think about it, like when you have, PTSD or CPTSD or a trauma response to something, ask yourself where is this serving me and how can I work through it in a way that allows me to be more stoic, that allows me to understand at a deeper level who I am and what is my purpose here and how am I here to serve? I know why I'm here. It's not easy. I have my days where I'm like, have I lost my mind? I was just talking to one of my closest friends earlier, and she's like, Jen, you work so hard. And it's true. But what takes you to that level where you understand what your purpose is from a deep, heart centered, follow your passion kind of space? So you can detach from anything that happens and recognize that everything that comes to you is a gift and an opportunity to serve at a higher level. And when is it okay to panic? Whenever you want. Whenever you want. I spent 6 weeks on the road going to 15 different states and several rescues across the country. And I drove with my hands at 10 and 2 the whole entire time. And I've been driving since I got my driver's license the day I turned 16. And I'm a little older than that now. My birthday's coming up, as a matter of fact. So I want you to think about that. Where are you showing up in a way that you could be more centered? And what are the things that trigger you into that panic state? And what is your personality type? Because a lot of times, like my Bellas, where are my Bellas? If you don't know if you're a Bella or not, you can go and take my quiz. I think it's being updated at the moment, so maybe you can't take it right now, but it'll tell you what your persona is like, kind of like a Myers-Briggs or DISC or one of those, But you have these things that help you understand who you are and utilizing these tools. So I'm going to put a link to my self-love masterclass. It's at my entry-level offer. You can go get a little appetizer, figure out like who you are, because the better you know who you are, the deeper you can love who you are, and the more profoundly you can believe in who you are. Because believing in yourself, it will change your life. And remembering to protect yourself from the opportunities and the triggers that send you into a state of panic. Because when is it okay to panic? Whenever you feel like it. I could start panicking right now because all I would have to do is stack up all of the things that are going wrong in my life that cause me to trigger it, make me feel fear, and make me feel disconnected from people I love and care about, that take away from a lost, lesser, never, and never have again space of the things that are important to me. Would it have been awesome if one of my horses got hit by a car? No, but I can't panic about it. What causes you to feel like you need to panic? And where are you giving yourself permission to do so? Understanding who you are and what your triggers are. There's 5 big ones, and I go through them in a lot of my coursework. We talk about those a lot. Like, what are the 5, I call them the adaptives. So there are 5 big things that shift how you show up innately, right? Innately for me, I'm like, let's find a solution. I'm very solutions driven. I don't like to hear about problems. Everybody's addicted to their problems and their stories, and I can hear it, catch it pretty quick. That sounds like a story. And it usually starts with the word because. I don't have what I want because I had to panic because the horses were in the street, right? The whatever you follow that word because with is the story you're telling yourself around the lie as to why you feel like it's okay to panic. And I'm not saying that if you do have, have panic attacks, dude, I had them many times. It's not an easy thing to talk about. We are so like, you had a panic attack? Do you really know what that actually looks and feels like, especially when you're going 75 miles an hour down a highway? Like, that was really hard. But to come back and go, all right, I can do this now. I don't have any problem driving anymore after I got back. But it was a stacking of continuous pieces of information, ways that I was like my living situation, the travel, like stuff from coming back home. Like the woman that I was keeping my horses at said, oh, by the way, I'm selling my place. I'm like, I just got here. Like, so when you start having so many things, the human psyche can only take so much. But the better and more deeply you can understand who you are and how you show up, you go, okay, now I know I am not going to put myself in a position to be yelled at anymore. I'm too old for that. You don't get to yell at me. Nobody gets to yell at me. Nobody gets to violate me. Or we're going to, there's going to be a decision, a change in my decision-making process. So, because I know what I can control and I know what my solutions are, and my decisions formulate my reality. So I'd love to have you come and join us in the self-love masterclass. It's great. It's some great videos with the horses. I'll go ahead and post it here in the, let's see if I can find it quickly in the comments, and you can go and check that out. Love for you to experience that. And again, that brings you into the Zen Club community where we talk about a lot of things that are around. Yeah. Hey, Debbie, you can't panic when you work with the animals. It's so true. And don't you think you can feel it when it's just you too? So check it out. I'd love for you to check out the Self-Love Masterclass. It's amazing. You'll learn a lot about horses and a lot about yourself. And as I always like to say at the end of all of my videos, believe in yourself. It will change your life. And stay tuned, you guys. We have a lot of things coming up. The Lionsgate Portal is coming up August 8th. My birthday's coming up. August is going to be a really spectacular month. I've been working behind the scenes a lot of hours. And this is not my zone of genius. I can do it, but a goldfish can climb a tree too. It just takes a little longer. So bear with me, but I've been working on some really big projects coming down the pipe, and I'd love for you to join us. So thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be going live, or I will be going live throughout the rest of the month, and coming up into my birthday month. I'll be 51 this year. What? And I hope to see you on the next live. Thanks again, guys. Debbie, great to see you on here. And remember, believe in yourself. It will change your life. Take care. Bye.